Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Dear Sri Suresh Panditji, my former colleague, it's a coincidence that he is introducing me. Though I am from Gujarat and he is from outside Gujarat, I should have welcomed him. It's a good strange coincidence, and we have been friends for many years. Dear friends, it's a great pleasure meeting you all. At the outset, I would like to thank Ahmedabad Management Association for organizing this program. As you know, 150th birth anniversary celebration of Swami Vivekananda are going on all over the world, not only in India in a very large scale, but even in many other countries. As you know, Government of India brought out the special stamps in the favor of, in honor of Swami Vivekananda. Similarly, Malaysian government, Sri Lankan government brought out. There were big celebrations in Bangladesh, big celebrations in Australia. Last year, UNESCO had a special exhibition on Swami Vivekananda on 13th October in Paris, which was inaugurated by the mayor of Paris. In Soviet Russia, there was a very grand celebration. Likewise, celebrations are going on all over the world in the name of Swami Vivekananda. Very surprisingly, normally when a person dies, his obituary note is the last note in the newspapers. But here what do we find? On 4 July 1902, when Swami Vivekananda gave up his body, he was popular, of course, but not that popular. And I remember the words of the great historian L. Basham, who wrote that wonderful book, The Wonder That Is India. In 1963, when Swami Vivekananda's centenary celebrations were going on, he said, "It is very difficult to evaluate the importance of Swami Vivekananda in the scale of history because we are too near the history. Perhaps the future generations will be able to better appreciate the magnitude, the importance of his message. And I think that time has not come. And when we are celebrating 150th birth anniversary, again we tell the same thing. We are too near the history to appreciate his message. But even during these 50 years, the message has grown so big, so vast. It is spreading like wildfire. Normally what happens, as I told you, a man dies and the obituary note is the last note. And here it's a very strange phenomena that this message is spreading far and wide. What is the reason? The reason is that Swami Vivekananda himself told that his message was nothing but the resounding of the perennial message of Vedanta. He was only a mouthpiece. And because he considered himself as a mouthpiece, only an instrument, and that is why today this message is rolling off, because it is the perennial message of immortality of the soul, the divinity of the soul. And how I chose this topic, you know, there is a book, I Am a Voice Without a Form, by Swami Vivekananda. This book was referred to by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the former president of India. At the time he was the president, when he came to Porbandar to inaugurate Vivekananda Institute of Value Education Culture on 12 January 2006. That was Swami Vivekananda's birthday, as you know, the National Youth Day. And so there was a big youth convention, which 5,000 youths were present. And that time he said Swami Vivekananda is not the great personality only of India, but of the whole globe. And that he said, why he was impressed by Swami Vivekananda was that he said, reading I Am a Voice Without a Form has been a very inspiring experience. He writes on the backside of the book. What a beautiful message to the religious, what a beautiful message to the religions from Swami Vivekananda. Quote, my name should not be made prominent It is my ideas that I want to be realized. Let us do that, and Almighty will bless our societies. That is what Dr. Kalam writes. And these are the words of Swami Vivekananda himself. Swami Vivekananda writes in a letter, I want no name. I want to be a voice without a form. Through the Lord's will, the desire for name and fame has not yet crept into my heart, and I dare say never will. I am an instrument, and He is the operator. Through this instrument, He is rousing the religious instincts in thousands of hearts in this far-off country in USA. Thousands of men and women have here love and revere me. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. This is, Swami Vivekananda himself quotes this shloka, that I am just an instrument. And because he considered himself an instrument, that is why this perennial message is spreading far and wide. I am amazed at His grace. Whichever town I visit, it is in uproar. They have named me the cyclonic Hindu. Remember, it is His will. I am a voice without a form. So in this book, this voice is there. And that is how I thought that this is the right time. Swamiji's 150th birth anniversary is being celebrated. Let us remember that voice. And what is that voice? What is that message? And what is that voice without form? Let us dwell on that. You know, Swami Vivekananda entered into Mahasamadhi on 4 July 1902. He had, a few days earlier, he had told Miss MacLeod, I will not live to see 40. He had predicted this many times in his life, but that time nobody took seriously. Even few days back when he said, by the side of the Ganges in Belur Math, which is our headquarters, there is a bell tree. That bell tree is not there, but in the same place there is another bell tree. Under that bell tree he was sitting, and he said, just a few days before he is passing away, when I die, cremate me here. And exactly on the same spot, his body was cremated. But when he told this, nobody took it seriously because he was hale and hearty, just 39 years. But it really happened, and his body was cremated. He was asked, why do you want to give up your body so quickly? Sometimes many people say, why did he live? Had he lived little more, he would have been able to do much better. Swami Vivekananda replied, I have done enough for next 1500 years. I have done enough for next 1500 years. You know, he did not play test match or one day or 2020, he played 10-10. So fast. Within a short time, he gave so many lectures, so many meetings, so many letters he wrote, big book, letters of Swami Vivekananda. All these accomplished in a very short span. So that is why I say, how much you live is not important, how you live is more important. And that is what he has demonstrated by Swamiji's life. We heard Adi Shankaracharya, within 32 years he accomplished so much. We thought it is all a mystery, it is all a hypothetical thing. But when we see before our very eyes, just a few years back, Swami Vivekananda, the same Shankaracharya came in the form of Vivekananda, the same Buddha came in the form of Vivekananda. And within 39 years of age, within 40 years of age, he has demonstrated that. And he has chosen, because he was given the boon by Shankara, by Shiva in Amarnath, Ichha Mrityu. Whenever he would like, he would die. Before that, he would not die. And so he had that boon that he would die whenever he wanted. And he selected the date 4th July. Because, you know, 4th July is also the Independence Day of America. And he loved America. 2 years back when I was in Chicago, I was on 4th July in Chicago. So on 4th July 2010, in our Chicago Center, I spoke on 4th July. On 4th July. On 4th July, I spoke on 4th July. And how Swami Vivekananda 4th July related. He chose that date, 4th July, Swami, America's independence date. He marked this in the almanac and he left his body. He was hale and hearty, morning. He was very bright, very cheerful. He went to the shrine. For 3 hours he meditated. And then when he was coming down the staircase, his brother disciple Swami Premanand overheard him telling himself, had there been another Vivekananda, he would have understood what this Vivekananda has done. So L. Basham says it's very difficult to evaluate the importance of Swami Vivekananda. No one else can evaluate his importance except Vivekananda. He himself said, had there been another Vivekananda, he would have understood what this Vivekananda has done. For us, it is very difficult to evaluate. But then, there are certain facts which we can read and which we can absorb and can have a little inkling of that Vivekananda. And so, Swami Vivekananda at that time was down the stairs. In the evening, he went for a walk with Swami Premanand. He talked about the Vedic Vidyalaya that should be established. So many things. He talked about Sanskrit. He taught the brahmacharis Sanskrit grammar and all that in the noon. In the evening, he had a walk. And then, after the Vesper, he had a cup of tea at 7 p.m. And then, after the Vesper service was started, he sat in meditation in the room. His last words were to the brahmachari who was looking after him, meditate till I call on you. And then after 1 hour of meditation, he was doing japam with his rosary and meditating. After 1 hour, that brahmachari was called. He told him to serve him, and then he slept, and that was eternal sleep. His soul took a flight to the infinite. At 9:10 p.m., 4th July, the body was left behind. But let us remember his immortal words. Much before this 4th July 1902, when he was in UK, he told Eric Hammond, it may be that I shall find it good to get outside of this body, to cast it off like a disused garment, but I shall not cease to work. I shall inspire men everywhere until the world shall know that it is one with God. He is still working. So many ways he has told, in so many letters, in so many ways he is told that he is not going to die. He told, work unto death. I am with you. And when I am gone, my spirit will work with you. But go on working for the good of the world, for the good of the nation, for the good of the poor, for serving the poor. He went on. Like this, there are so many letters, so many inspiration. One of the most inspiring letters, which gives us an inkling into the mind of Swami Vivekananda. What was his mission? What was his idea? What was his ideal? All these things we get from a beautiful letter that Swami Vivekananda wrote from Almora on 9th July 1897, where he writes, among many other things, there is one paragraph only that I will reproduce before you. Miss Mary Hale. He wrote this letter to Miss Mary Hale of America. There were 4 sisters, who were connected with Swami Vivekananda. The Hale family was the first family with whom Swami Vivekananda came in contact in Chicago. So he wrote to Miss Mary Hale, my dear Mary, I had to talk a lot about myself because I owed that to you. Now I feel my task is done. At the most, 3 years of life is left behind. 3 or 4 years of life is left behind. He writes in 1897, and exactly after 5 years, he is gone. At the most, 3 or 4 years of life is left behind. He says in 1897, at the most 3 or 4 years of life left behind. I never wanted earthly enjoyments. I have lost all wish for my salvation. I must see my machine in strong working order, and knowing for certain that I had put in a lever for the good of humanity, in India at least, which no power can yet drive back, at least in India, I will sleep without caring what will be next. And may I be born again and again and suffer thousands of miseries so that I may worship the only God that exists, the only God that I believe in, the sum total of all souls, and above all, my God the wicked, my God the miserable, my God the poor of all races, of all species, is the special object of my worship. This is the special object of worship. Can you imagine? Nobody wrote like that. Swamiji writes, my Lord, the wicked, even the wicked there is divinity within the wicked also. Not only divinity in poor, in the afflicted, in suffering, but in the wicked. My God, the wicked. When I go to the prison houses, and when I tell this word, this is what Swami Vivekananda said, even among you also is the same divinity. They start weeping, these prisoners. Getting the message of Swamiji. They want to read the book of Swami Vivekananda. My God, the wicked, my God, the miserable, my God, the poor of all races, of all species, is a special object of worship. In so many ways, Swami Vivekananda said, I'll continue to inspire men everywhere. And he's still there. He said, I am a voice without form. Unfortunately, the original voice is not yet traceable. Many people, they tell me, Swamiji, I'll give you a beautiful CD of original voice of Swami Vivekananda. I said, thank you very much, but I already got that. Huh? But that is not the original voice of Swami Vivekananda, which is going on the internet, and so many people are telling, no. We have tried our best to recover that voice, but so far we have not been successful. Because first of all, there was no such recording facility available at that time, in 1893, during the World Parliament of Religions held in Chicago, or up to 1902, that discovery was made. At the most, there were cylinder discs available, which could record up to 3 beats. But the record that you find is a continuous, so many hours of recording, continuous recording, which is not possible. Only 3 minutes cylinders were available. And Swamiji was very much enamored by that machine, which used to record that. So he sent that machine to Maharaja of Khetri, Maharaja of Mysore, and also sent his own voice, recorded in a cylinder, sent to Maharaja of Khetri. And Maharaja of Khetri was his disciple, Ajit Singh Ji. In his darbar, in the palace, in the darbar hall, he called the meeting, and what are the duties of a king? That is what he has written, he has told in that disc. And that was all the citizens of Khetri listened to that. But unfortunately, we wanted to discover that, but this is our typical Indian tendency, no historical sense. This cylinder, along with many other old newspapers and all that, were sold off by the palace people long back. We went to the place where this was sold, but it was not traceable. Another thing, Maharaja of Mysore was also friend of Swamiji. He sent one there. So we went to the palace. In that museum, that cylinder is available. But the cylinder is available, sent by Swami Vivekananda. But we wanted to recover the voice, but the voice is completely gone. Not at all traceable. We sent to America also, not traceable. I got one cylinder such like this thing from Diwan of Junagadh, Haridas Vihar Desai of Nadiyad. I went to Nadiyad, Desai Wado. We recovered a few cylinders. We sent to America. That voice is not traceable. So as on today, all our efforts of retrieving the original voice of Swami Vivekananda have failed. So that voice that you are getting is a very good voice, but not a voice of Vivekananda. Whatever it is, that voice is not available in the physical form. The form of Swami Vivekananda is not there, but the photograph is there. Photograph of Vivekananda is as inspiring as Vivekananda. You see the photograph? Just see. Have a look at the photograph. Any photograph. There are 74 photographs of Swami Vivekananda, original photographs taken by the camera. And you see, then you will find if the photograph is so inspiring, how inspiring he would have been. But that is the form. But Swamiji wants, no, my name should not be preached. I want only my voice. I am a voice without form. And what is that voice? That original voice is not there, but his voice, fortunately, was not recorded because recorder was not available, but there was one stenographer, Mr. Goodwin, who was traveling with him most of the time. He gave his services, and let us thank Mr. Goodwin. He, by his stenographic record, he took every word of what Swamiji spoke. Many people they say that we are attracted by the literature of Swami Vivekananda. Why? You know, the books of Swami Vivekananda are completely different from any other book because they are not books. They are the voice of Swami Vivekananda. How? Excepting a part of Raj Yoga that is written by Swami Vivekananda and the letters which Swamiji himself wrote, all other lectures that you get is not written by Swamiji. No. They are spoken by Swamiji and recorded in the same vein by Mr. Goodwin and others. And that is why you find they touch your heart. So the French savant, the Nobel Prize winner Romarola, he says, when Rabindranath Tagore told Romarola, if you want to know India, study Vivekananda. In him everything is positive, nothing negative. And then Romarola started the book, reading the books of Swami Vivekananda, and he was so much inspired that he wrote biographies of Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna later on, about 30 years later. So in 1934, when the books came out, after 30 years, he wrote about the words of Swami Vivekananda. His words are great music, phrases and the style of Beethoven. I cannot touch these sayings of his, scattered as they are, through the pages, at a 30th distance, without receiving a thrill through my body, like an electric shock. So we get that electric shock, that electrifying influence, because these are the words of Swami Vivekananda. They are not written, they are spoken words. And Swamiji said, my words are like fire. They will enter into your brain and have transformation. Just as Jesus Christ said, my words are like fire, they will enter into you and work miracles. Similarly, Swamiji said, my words are like fire, they will burn you out, enter into your brain and burn you out. He himself said about this, and that is the voice of Swami Vivekananda, which is coming, ever inspiring Vivekananda, through particularly his books, which are nothing but his voice coming to us in the form of books. And that is why this is, as on today, giving inspiration. When Swamiji was alive, he inspired many. I'll give only two examples. When Swamiji was traveling from India to America, from Bombay to Chicago, at Vancouver, in Japan, he met Jamsetji Tata in a hotel. And Jamsetji Tata had gone to get a deal for matchboxes. And then Swamiji said, why do you purchase matchboxes? Why don't you start a factory? Our Indian people will get the employment also. And then he talked about industrialization, economic development of the nation, and so many other things. We do not know what all about. But they were both traveling in the same ship from Vancouver to Chicago. And during this travel of about a month and a half, they had a lot of talks. But we come to know about this only afterwards. Jamsetji Tata thought of starting Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. At that time, Jamsetji Tata wrote a letter on 23rd November 1898. He wrote to Swami Vivekananda that you may remember me as a fellow traveler. At that time, we had a lot of talks about the economic development, industrialization, and channelizing the monastic power and the spiritual power for the regeneration of our motherland. And you must have doubtless heard of my scheme of this Indian Institute of Science, this research institute. And I know not of a person who could be more fitting general for this campaign than Vivekananda. And so I would request you to give your help in this. And Swami Vivekananda at that time was busy otherwise, but then he told the editor of Prabuddha Bharata, who wrote a beautiful article, beautiful editorial, a news item, that this is a very good scheme and must be given. And then Swamiji put Nivedita on the job, Sister Nivedita, Miss Margaret Noble, whom he had brought from England, as you know. And because she dedicated herself, her whole life, sacrificed her whole life for the sake of motherland India, that's why Swami Vivekananda gave her the name Nivedita, the dedicated one. So he put Nivedita on the job for helping, and later on, as you know, as we all know, that Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore came up. But this is the background. So Swami Vivekananda inspired Jamsetji Tata with his words when he was in physical frame. He also inspired John D. Rockefeller. We are now talking about corporate social responsibility, CSR. We are talking about trusteeship management. But very few people know, for the first time in the world history, in the corporate sector, it was Swami Vivekananda who initiated this trusteeship management. There is an interesting incident. When Swami Vivekananda is in Chicago, after the World Parliament of Religions, as you know, he became very popular. He was an unknown monk. On 11 September 1893, he delivered his historic speech in the World Parliament of Religions. Mind you, that was also 9/11. And because we did not listen to his message of 9/11, of harmony of religions, there was another 9/11 in 2001, and the world tower broke. It is high time for world peace. We must have harmony of religions. We must adopt the message of Swami Vivekananda. So we are going to have another 9/11. Same art institute where this Parliament of Religions was held, same art institute, we are going to have, the government of India is going to have a symposium on Swami Vivekananda. The Indian Council of Cultural Relations is holding, and I have been made the chief coordinator. So that symposium on Swami Vivekananda, a global leader for a global civilization, will be held in the same art institute. So once again we want to give that message of harmony of religions, third 9/11, so that another 9/11 does not take place once again. Let us remember that message of harmony of religions. So you know how he became popular overnight. On 11 September till evening, he was an unknown monk who had gone, and he was not allowed also admitted into Parliament of Religions. When he went from India there, and when he reached there, the committee told, have you got any credentials? Have you brought any letter? From where you are coming? Who has sent you? He said, I have come by myself. Some young people told me to go, so I have come. Where is the credential? I don't have credentials. He said, you can't get admission. He was very much nervous. Now he had no money to go back also. So he gave a telegram, no internet that time, no email, no telephone. So he gave a telegram, at least he sent the money for going back. And I don't have money to live here also, because the hotel charges are very heavy. And the clothes were given very lovingly by Maharaja Khetri, because he was disciple. He thought he should wear the same clothes that I am wearing. At plus 50 degrees Celsius, whatever clothes he is wearing, he gave the same silken clothes to Swamiji with out of love, not knowing that it is minus 30 degrees Celsius in Chicago in September. And Swamiji was not having any woolen clothes, no money to purchase. He said, I will die of this cold. So you send some money, at least I am not able to purchase woolen clothes, not difficult. Now what to do? He remembered, while he is coming from Vancouver to Chicago, he had met a lady. So he was from the side of Boston, Meadows, that was the small village near Boston. She had told Swamiji, you please be my guest. So he thought it's better to go to that lady, and at least lodging, boarding will be assured. Because you cannot beg money in America as you can beg here in India. Nobody would entertain you. So he went to that lady, and then that lady was very happy. What he would do is that he would put Swami Vivekananda in the horse carriage and go around the village to show the very peculiar type of some species, some animal that has come with this queer dress, and people were very much entertained. And she was taking pride. I have brought some special element from India. Swamiji had to undergo all that because free lodging and boarding. But anyway, the chance brought Swamiji to nearby. When they went to Aniscombe village, nearby there was the house of Professor John Henry Wright, who was from Harvard University. And Mrs. Wright used to come to this Swami Vivekananda for listening to his advices. Professor Wright, John Henry Wright, when he heard Swamiji, and when he came to know about his deep knowledge, said, Swamiji, you ought to go to the Parliament of Religions. Swamiji said, I came only for that. But they are telling you can't be admitted. Where is the letter of introduction? You don't have credentials. And then John Henry Wright said, Swami, to ask credentials from you is like asking the sun as to what right it has to shine on the earth. And then Swamiji wrote a letter, an introduction letter to Dr. Henry Barrows, who was the chairman of that committee. Professor John Henry Wright wrote, here is a man who is more learned than all our professors put together. All our professors put together. That was the wisdom of Swamiji. And with that letter, he started from Boston back to Chicago, because now it was the time. He had reached 2 months back. Now 2 months somehow passed. Now September, 9th September, he reached Chicago railway station at night. Now he had told, there was one person accompanying, he was a businessman, and he wanted to know what is the place all about, where I have to go. So he showed that letter. This is the address where I have to go. The Committee of Parliament Religious, that was the address. And that person said, yes, I will take you to that. But when he got down, where that person disappeared, he did not know, and the address also gone with him. Now he has no address also, and it is a night, chilly night, so much, and no, you can't bake food. So somehow there was a small wagon, railway wagon. He went inside to protect himself from the cold. Whole night he passed. Morning he got a smell from a lake, some water. He was from Bengal, he loved water. So some water smell is coming. So there must be some lake inside. And then he went towards the Michigan lake, and that is how near Michigan lake he started begging food, but nobody gave, and they all turned him down. Then near a church, there was a tree. He sat down. Okay, Lord, if you want, I should die of hunger and thirst. Let thy will be done. And he sat down. Now I want to die. And as soon as he put it in the hands of God, there was a window that opened from the front side. That was Mrs. Hell. She came down and said, Swami, are you a delegate to the Parliament Religious? Swami said, yes. Then he said, I have lost my address. I will take you, don't worry. But first you come, take food. Then Swami said, no, Lord is there. Lord is there to protect in India. Lord is there to protect in America also. It is He who is doing the whole drama. We are just instruments. And then she took him to the Parliament Religions. This is all the background. On 9th of September 1893, Swamiji was passing his night in the railway wagon. On 11th September, when he was told to give his speech, now he had no idea of the Parliament Religions, because he had never given a public speech excepting in the Mehboob College in Hyderabad. There was no public speech he gave so far. He was just talking to some people, that's all. And he never imagined when he saw the grandeur and 7,000 people trying to hunger. And all the other speakers had prepared speeches. Now he never came speech. He never prepared any speech also. And he was terrified. Then the organizer told, you speak. No, afterwards. Like that he went on, because he doesn't know what he should speak. He has not prepared the speech. He was awe-struck by so much of crowd. Then in the afternoon, Dr. Barrows said, if you want to speak, you speak, otherwise don't speak. So he thought this is the last chance. And then he got up, came to this podium, and then closed his eyes, remembered his Guru Sri Ramakrishna, remembered Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and he started his speech, dear sisters and brothers of America. And he told only these words, and all the 7,000 people stood and clapped and clapped for more than 2 minutes. And Swamiji was wonderstruck, what has happened, something wrong? But then he understood that no, he was being appreciated. But he had told not in a dramatic way. The words came out from, why they all stood up? Because the words came from the heart of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda had practiced harmony of religions, had practiced universal brotherhood in his own life. He had been singing the song of Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, in his life. Whenever he used to come Sri Ramakrishna said, Naren, please song. Both were great experts in singing. And Naren will sing many songs. Then Naren said, I'm going. No. You cannot go before you sing that song. What was that song? The song written by the last Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar. He was a Sufi saint, but the whole message of Vedanta is there. तुझसे हमने दिल को लगाया, जो कुछ है सो तू ही है, एक तुझको अपना पाया, जो कुछ है सो तू ही है. सबके मकान दिल का मकीन तू, कौन सा दिल है जिसमें नहीं तू, हर एक दिल में तू ही समाया, जो कुछ है सो तू ही है. काबा में क्या, देवल में क्या, तेरी परवरिश होगी सब जहां, सभी ने तुझको सिर है झुकाया, जो कुछ है सो तू ही है. अर्श से लेकर फर्श जमी तक और जमी से अर्श बरी तक, जहां में देखा तू ही नजर आया, जो कुछ है सो तू ही है. क्या मलायक, क्या इंसान, क्या हिंदू, क्या मुसलमान, जैसा चाहा तूने बनाया, जो कुछ है सो तू ही है. सोचा समझा देखा भाला, तुझ जैसा न कोई ढूंढ निकाला, अब यह समझ में जफर की आया, जो कुछ है सो तू ही है. This is the song that Swamiji had been singing. This is the message of Vedanta. The whole world is permeated by one universal consciousness. This has been verified experimentally by the modern quantum mechanics, that is the holistic universe. This is the song that gives the feeling of that Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, Isha Vasamidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Taktena Bhunjita Magrada Kasya Siddhanam. The same Brahman, the same that reality is permeating the whole universe. This he had been telling, and he had seen with his own eyes his master Sri Ramakrishna practicing various religions by turn. First worshipping Mother Kali, then Rama, then Krishna, had the vision of Ram, had the vision of Krishna, had the vision of Kali. Then he practiced Tantras, then he practiced Advait Vedanta and went to Samadhi for 6 months, Sri Ramakrishna. And then he practiced Islam, and he had the vision of Muhammad Paigambar. And then he practiced Christianity, and then he got the vision of Jesus Christ, who embraced him and disappeared into him. He had seen all this. He said Sri Ramakrishna's life was itself a parliament of religions. For these parliament of religions was nothing for him. And so he spoke from the heart. For him, yes, all of them were dear, real sisters and brothers. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That thing was embedded in his blood. And because the words came out from his heart, it touched the hearts of Americans. And they all stood up and they clapped and clapped and clapped. And there was a very small message that Swamiji gave, only because out of 5 minutes, 2 minutes gone in clapping only. Only 3 minutes left. Within 3 minutes, he gave the message that transformed the whole world. Not only America, the whole world. Where he gave the message that sectarianism, bigotry and fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth and drenched it often and often with blood. Now their time has come. And I fervently pray that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all sorts of fanaticism, of all sorts of dogmatism, and of all sorts of persecution in the name of religion, whether with the pen or whether with the sword. This is what he fervently prayed, but we did not listen. 9/11, after 108 years exactly, 9/11 World Tower broke. Why? Fanaticism. Even now we have to take the message. So that is the message Swamiji gave in that parliament of religions. Overnight he became a hero in all the newspapers, front page, Swamiji's photo. In all the streets there was big holdings of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, the great Hindu monk of India. And the New York Herald, one of the most popular newspapers, wrote about Swami Vivekananda. So many great people have come from various religions. So many leaders have come, religious leaders from all over the world. But the greatest figure in the parliament of religions is Swami Vivekananda. That is what they wrote. The greatest figure in the parliament of religions is Swami Vivekananda. Only 30 years old, one of the youngest monks that time, one of the youngest leaders present in that platform. The greatest figure in the parliament of religions is Swami Vivekananda. The next sentence is more important. After listening to him, we think how foolish it is on our part to send missionaries to India. Their religion is so great, rather we should invite missionaries from India. The whole table turned. And this transformation was brought out. India, which was considered a savage country, an uncivilized country, uncultured country, suddenly became the country of spiritual culture, the great spiritual culture. And now they started thinking about India in great terms. This whole transformation, this was the first victory. Aurobindo says, this was the first victory won by Swami Vivekananda, the world victory. He was a Vishwa Vijeta. Because intellectually, he had made an impression on America that no, India is not a savage country, an uncivilized country, uncultured country, the country of serpents and snakes and snake charmers. No, it is a country with the highest philosophy of Vedanta. This Swamiji gave and the whole tantrum. At that time, such an impression was created. There was so much of demand for the lectures of Swamiji. Swamiji had to stay for 3.5 years more in America. Of course, he went in between to London also, Europe also. Now, when Swamiji was staying in Chicago, at that time, the richest person of the world was John D. Rockefeller, the richest person of the world, the emperor of petroleum industry. At that time, he was in great disappointing mood. And all his hair had gone. He had become bald. A very typical type of disease had come because of the anxiety that he was undergoing, and he was contemplating suicide. At that time, one of his friends said, who was a partner, he said, you know, in my house, Swami Vivekananda, an Indian yogi, is staying, and he's a great orator and a greatly wise person. I think you should come to him and you can get advice from him. Rockefeller said, what? I to go to an advice from a beggar? You know, we are all beggars. We are all professional beggars. We are living on charity, on donations. So we monks are beggars. He said, what? I to go to a beggar for getting advice? No, I will not go. And he did not go. One fine morning, suddenly, he came to the place of residence of where Swamiji was staying. He called the bell. The butler opened the door. Rockefeller went inside. Now, Swamiji at the time was not in drawing room. He was in study room. Without being announced, he went to the study room. Now, as you know, Swamiji had tremendous power of concentration. He will do one thing at a time. He was fully engrossed in his study. He did not notice Rockefeller coming. Rockefeller stood for some time. And when Swamiji did not notice, he knocked at the table. Then Swamiji looked up. Rockefeller said, I am Rockefeller. Swamiji said, what do you want? Now, Rockefeller was not prepared for this type of treatment. Rockefeller name, the President of America would get up and hear the beggar sitting and asking, what do you want? So he became very much annoyed. He said, I don't want anything. Then Swamiji said, then why have you come? Now, he had no answer. He had come without invitation. Then Swamiji said, my dear Rockefeller, I know why you have come. You have come here because you do not have peace of mind. And then Swami Vivekananda narrated many incidents from the life of Rockefeller, which no one else knew except Rockefeller. And he became very much excited. How do you know? How do you come to know about this? Who has told all these secrets to you? Swami just smiled and said, do you think it is necessary somebody should tell me? I can see through your mind as I can see through a glass almirah. Then Rockefeller became very much anxious. He has come to know all my secrets inside. Then Swamiji said, my dear Rockefeller, I will give a piece of advice. Remember, you are not the owner of your wealth. You are only a custodian of your wealth. Utilize this money for removing the sufferings of millions of people. By that only you will get peace of mind. There is no other way by which you can get peace of mind. Now Rockefeller was not prepared to listen to anybody's advice, least of all from a beggar, so he became very much annoyed and he left abruptly as abruptly he had come. He left immediately, abruptly. But after a few days again he came. Similar fashion, called the bell. The butler opened the door. He went inside. Swamiji was not in his drawing room, he was in study room. So again he went to the study room. Swamiji was fully engrossed. Then he came and knocked at the table. Then Swamiji looked up. Then Rockefeller put a piece of paper on his table in which he had made an announcement of a very huge donation for a public cause. And when Swamiji read it, Rockefeller said, now you must thank me. I have followed your advice. Swamiji said, well, it is for you to thank me. Because by following my advice, you will get peace of mind which cannot be purchased by millions of dollars in the market. That was a first very huge donation of Rockefeller. Not that he had made not donation. You know, he had made donations, but they were small donations. This was a very huge donation for a public cause. I was trying to do research. What was that donation? We do not know. This is my gesture, just a small gesture. I may be wrong. When I went in 2010 to Chicago University, there Rockefeller's statue is there, and it is written that this Chicago University was started in 1893 by a great donation of Rockefeller. So I could connect that maybe this was the public institution for which he might have donated. Of course, he had donated earlier, but it was a small amount. But over a period, he had made a huge donation. And as you know, in 2013, he started Rockefeller Foundation. And from that Rockefeller Foundation, so many researches have been done. David Borlaug made a research on the wheat, Mexican wheat, which saved the millions of people from hunger. How? What? Why? How could he do that research? Because of Rockefeller Foundation money. And Rockefeller Foundation was started by Rockefeller in 1913, after listening to the message of Swami Vivekananda of trusteeship management. And I was very much surprised when in the newspaper somebody wrote, when the Bill Gates came for the first time, that Bill Gates was inspired by Swami Vivekananda. I was very much surprised because at that time, general opinion about Bill Gates was he believes in cutthroat policy. That was the impression about Bill Gates that time. I'm talking many years back. So I was very much surprised how it could be. Because the newspapers, they asked, why have you come to India? Because I admire Indian culture. How did you admire? Because I read the books of Swami Vivekananda. Have you read any book of Swami Vivekananda? Then he said, I do not go to bed without reading a few pages from the books of Swami Vivekananda. I was very much surprised how it could happen. But then later on when I heard that Bill Gates has announced that bearing only $10 million out of that time he had $39 billion, out of which only $10 million for his children, rest all will give to charity. Not only that, in the year 2000 he started Melinda Bill Gates Foundation and gave a lot of $30 billion to start with that one. And every year from that foundation, he is the biggest donor, the largest donor, the greatest donor for so many years. Then I can visualize, I can understand, he must have read the books of Swami Vivekananda, of this trusteeship management, and of this serving the poor, of serving the millions. But I wanted to confirm. So I wrote a mail to Bill Gates. Is it really true that you have been inspired by the books of Swami Vivekananda? The reply came, we do not reply such questions. The standard replies are there. Because in the website they have given. So I do not know. But there, in that website, there is a biography of Bill Gates where it is written that Bill Gates got his inspiration for charity from David Rockefeller, the youngest son of John D. Rockefeller. So that is the connecting link. Bill Gates gets the inspiration from David Rockefeller, who was the youngest son who got his inspiration from his father John D. Rockefeller, who was inspired by Swami Vivekananda. So whatever it is, but Swami Vivekananda inspired so many people. His voice inspired many people. After he has given up his body, this voice continues to inspire us through his books, particularly as I told you. And immediately after Swami Vivekananda left his body in 1902, in 1905, there was a big movement in Bengal, Bang Bhang Andolan. Most of the revolutionaries, they used to read books of Swami Vivekananda, get inspired with his message of nationalism. And so that is why the British government, the CID department, intelligence department, wrote to the British government that you must put a ban on the books of Swami Vivekananda. Particularly the book Patravali, the letters of Swami Vivekananda. Because when we go to the houses of these revolutionaries, sometimes we get the bombs, sometimes we do not get the bombs, but 2 bombs everywhere we get. What are the 2 bombs? One the book of Bhagavad Gita and one the book of Swami Vivekananda. Very dangerous books. So they saw it, books of Swami Vivekananda, very dangerous. It is they which are inspiring the revolutionaries. And that is why Dr. Rajkot says, when we used to write letters to our friends, we used to quote the letters of Swami Vivekananda in our letters. Because letters of Swami Vivekananda book we cannot transfer to others. Then the intelligence department will follow us. So we used to quote the letters of Swami Vivekananda in our letters. That is how we used to exchange our views. But all our revolutionaries, all our great patriots, they got their inspiration from the books of Swami Vivekananda. The fiery words that he spoke, Swamiji, when he came back after returning, when he returned from the West in 1897, everywhere he was given a hero's welcome. And from Colombo to Almora, wherever he went, and that is why his lectures from Colombo are very inspiring. In reply, he gave very fiery speeches, very, very inspiring speeches. These are all embedded, been included in the book, Lectures from Colombo to Almora, and now a shorter version has come in the form My India, the India Eternal. In these lectures you find a tremendous power. And Swami Vivekananda gave the clarion call, Uttishtata, Jagrata, Prapyavran Nibodhata, arise, awake and stop not till the goal reach. And the whole country got awakened. 1,000 years of slavery, 1,000 years of sleep was shattered by the words, fiery words of Swami Vivekananda. And that is how these words, these then came in the form of the books. And these books again inspired the revolutionaries and the great patriots. Mahatma Gandhi, when he came to Bellumat, our headquarters, that was on 6th February 1921. And then he was asked, Mahatma Gandhi, please give lecture. Mahatma Gandhi said, I have not come here to give lecture. I have come here to pay my homage to the great memory of Swami Vivekananda. And then he told, particularly I will tell the youngsters, when you come to this great place, do not go empty-handed. Take some of the great inspiration from this great place. And then he gave advice, read the books of Swami Vivekananda. I have myself gone through the books of Swami Vivekananda, and the love that I had for my country became 1,000-fold. That is what Mahatma Gandhi said. And Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said, I do not know how many of the younger generations read the books of Swami Vivekananda. But in our own times, hardly there was a young person who was not inspired by the books of Swami Vivekananda. That is what Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said. All our great patriots, all our great social reformers, all our great patriots, all our revolutionists, all of them, they got the inspiration from the books of Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Vivekananda in 1897 had put this dream, let all the other gods and goddesses disappear from our mind. The only God that is awake, that is the great motherland of ours. For next 50 years, this alone shall be our God, this motherland of ours. Forget all our gods and goddesses. And what a strange coincidence. And he also said, he was a visionary, he said, within 50 years, India shall be independent from foreign rule. Within 50 years, India shall be independent from foreign rule, and that also in extraordinary circumstances without waging a war. Nobody ever imagined that any country could get independence without waging a war, because Mahatma Gandhi came only in 1915 from South Africa and started a non-cooperation movement. But in 1897, Swamiji predicted India will become independent within 50 years. Exactly after 50 years, India became independent. And that also an unusual way, as Swamiji had predicted. Whatever Swamiji predicted, that all has come true. Except one thing, Swamiji said, India shall conquer the whole world by spiritual culture. That is also slowly taking place. Everywhere yoga and meditation is very much welcome. The Indian spiritual culture, the fourth wave of management has come. So Suresh Panditji has worked for bringing about this Indian ethos. He, along with N.S. Atreya and others, have been working very hard for the last few years for popularizing this wave of Indian ethos. In the field of management, the first wave was the British style of management, second was the American style of management, third wave was the Japanese style of management, and now the fourth wave is coming based on Indian spiritual culture, Indian ethos, based on Indian ethos, the holistic style of management. Gradually it is sweeping over, because now people are under stress and the Western models of stress management are not working. So that is why they are coming. And this practical Vedanta, the message of practical Vedanta given by Swami Vivekananda, is now so very relevant. And M.V. Kamath, the former editor of Illustrated Weekly, he says, when I went through the books of Swami Vivekananda, I was bewildered. I was bewildered by the wisdom of Swami Vivekananda. He was talking like a management guru of the 21st century. Swami Vivekananda, he says, when he read the books of Swami Vivekananda, I was surprised that Swami Vivekananda was talking like a management guru of the 21st century. Robert Greenleaf talks about servant leadership, which is very popular. But Swami Vivekananda practiced it in his own life, this servant leadership. And that is why today, when he started Ramakrishna Mission, there were 5 branches. Because of the servant leadership that he practiced, what did he do? He did not become the first president of the Ramakrishna Mission. No power and position. He made Swami Brahmanand, his brother disciple, the first president of Ramakrishna Mission. He did not take any power and position. And that is why he said, I do not want name and fame. I want only that my message spread. And that is why, because he practiced servant leadership, that is why today, when he passed away on 4 July 1902, at the age of 39 years, there were only 5 centers of Ramakrishna Mission. Today, there are 173 branches all over the world, 40 abroad, 134 in India, and 1,000 centers waiting for affiliation. In Gujarat, there are 4 centers: Limdi, Porbandar, Rajkot, and Vadodara. And many activities have been carried out. You will get the brochure from the bookstall downstairs. And one of the activities now, the immediate activity will be an international youth conference. That also details you can get. But so many activities going on. 14 indoor hospitals, 19 outdoor hospitals, 1 crore patients are being served free of cost. Service of God in man, Shiva Jnana Jiv Seva, being practically demonstrated. And 6,000 education institutions, 6 lakh students studying there, and rural and tribal development projects. So much of disaster relief. Already our relief work started. From the very day, first day, we start our relief work. In Uttarakhand also, the relief work is going on. Anywhere there is any disaster, we immediately start relief work. Why? Because Swami Vivekananda is the great leader who told, serve God in man. That is the best worship for the modern man, for the modern age, and that is why he put that model of Ramakrishna mission. So because he practiced servant leadership, that is why this is the expansion of Ramakrishna mission. So Swami Vivekananda has demonstrated through his own life all these principles that he talked about, and even today, so many are getting inspired by the message of Swami Vivekananda. Many from all fields. On 20th January, a girl came to Baroda. So many people come to Baroda because Swamiji stayed there. There are only 11 places in the whole world where Swami Vivekananda stayed and been converted to memorials. 3 in America, South Pasadena House where Swamiji stayed, and then Thousand Island Park where Swamiji gave his inspired talks, and 3rd is Ridgely Manor. 8 in India, his birthplace in Calcutta, Kanyakumari where he meditated for 3 days at that rock, Chennai, Madras, that is Vivekanillam, Ice House. Khetri, Maharaja his descendants gave the palace in which Swamiji stayed in Khetri in Rajasthan, and 1 in Belgaum, the forest bungalow where he stayed, has been converted to memorial, and 3 in Gujarat. Limdi, the palace where Swamiji stayed, has been given by the descendants of the Limdi Maharaja Yashwant Singh Ji to Ramakrishna Mission for converting memorial. The Bhojeshwar bungalow in Porbandar was handed over by the government of Gujarat to Ramakrishna Mission on 12 January 1997, and 2005, 18th April, we got the bungalow Baroda. So 3 memorials in Gujarat. 4th may come up in Ahmedabad, but I want to keep my fingers crossed. At present, I will not make any announcement, but we are trying our hard to have a memorial in Ahmedabad also. So so many people are coming to meditate in that room in which Swamiji stayed. One girl came on 23rd January this year, and then she liked so much, then I gave her some books on Swami Vivekananda. Then she took lunch with us. Then I was surprised to get her story. Why she had come? Because she was trying to inspire the other people to go for mountaineering. And what was doing? She was a national champion on basketball. National champion of basketball. 2 years back, she was traveling from Lucknow to Delhi for appearing in an examination. Night, some dacoits came. They started snatching things from the passengers. All of them gave. But this girl, only 23 years old, she was so bold, she said, I will not give my chain. And then the dacoits, they thought, seeing the courage of this girl, many others will get courage. And then we will have to give back the thugs. So what did they do? They just opened the gate, railway train was moving at fast speed. They took her and threw out of the moving train. And there was another moving train which was going. So she collided with that. She got injured from the head. And then she fell down. Her one leg was fully cut. And she was screaming whole night. And what happened? The trains were coming overhead. 50 trains went over her head all night. Nobody came to help. Morning, some villagers came, took her to hospital. Somehow she survived. Now she can't play basketball. She said, okay, I can't play basketball. I will take revenge with these dacoits. I will show to them I am not going to be cowed down. And she determined on that deathbed, I will go to Mount Everest with one leg. And 20th May this year, he really climbed the Mount Everest with one leg. He created the world history. When he was going for climbing, when he was base camp, every time he was in constant touch with me, and I gave her a photograph of Swami Vivekananda to be put into the mountain. And he said, that I put a photograph not only of Swami Vivekananda, but also along with Sri Ramakrishna Sharda Devi. There's a photograph showing all the three, Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, Sharda Devi. This photograph she has placed along with the Indian flag in the Mount Everest. Already they have reached. So many people are getting inspired. Not that she was before Swamiji's reading Swamiji's books also she was a great lady. She was, because she had already fought with the dacoits. But after reading the books of Swamiji, she got more spirit, she got more courage. Because when she was sick, she read the books of Swami Vivekananda. She told me, Swamiji, आपने किताब दिया, बहुत अच्छा किताब है. उससे हमको बहुत power मिलता है. She was in constant touch. So many are getting. A few years back, one girl became a topper in IS examination. That is the most toughest examination. And she was asked, you appeared for the first time and you became a topper. Didn't you feel sometimes some nervousness? She said, yes. I used to feel nervousness. For the first time I'm appearing IS exam, so I used to feel nervous. But I had a remedy. Whenever I used to feel nervousness, I used to keep a book of Swami Vivekananda. Whenever nervousness comes, I will read a few sentences of Swami Vivekananda and I got fully surcharged. And that is how I got topped the IS examination. So students are getting inspired by the books of Swami Vivekananda. The first lady taxi driver of India, do you know her name? That is Jasbir Ahuja. When she started in taxi, first lady taxi driver, and she was asked by the journalist, don't you feel diffident? People are criticizing you, and don't you feel nervous? She said, yes, I feel sometimes nervous, because I had to do it, because my husband was hospitalized, we had no money, so I learned driving, and I started taxi, because taxi is lying idle. So I started driving the vehicle because I have to give the medical expenses of my husband. I had no other alternative. But people used to criticize me and I used to become very nervous. But whenever I used to become nervous, what I did, that I made one sentence of Swami Vivekananda, put it on my house. In a big letters I have written down, arise, awake and stop not till the goal is reached. And so whenever I will get nervousness, I will read that sentence, again I got charged up, and again I roused, and again started driving the taxi. So this is how so many ways, so many people from various stratas are getting inspired by the message of Swami Vivekananda. Various ways we do not know, so many of them. I have many stories to tell, but I will not go much into detail. We are coming to the end of the time. When I was traveling with Dr. Kalam, when he came to Porbandar, that time he had not become president. On 13th February 2002, he inaugurated one of the 81 school buildings that we had constructed of relief work. That time he had not yet become president. So we were traveling from Rajkot to Porbandar by car. Then he says, Swamiji, you tell some inspiring incidents from the life of Swami Vivekananda. So I told many incidents from the life of Swami Vivekananda. Within 3 hours, the car reached Porbandar. Then he went and meditated in the room in which Swamiji had stayed. And there he says, while meditating in the room where Swamiji stayed in Porbandar, he said, I was lost in meditation. And he said, for the first time I came to know that you can go beyond time. For the first time I heard. And so he wrote in his book, Ignited Minds, that in that Porbandar house, in that room where Swamiji stayed, I was lost in meditation. He did not use the word samadhi. But time becomes indeterminate at some time. That experience he had in Porbandar and Rajkot as well. That is what he says in his book, Ignited Minds. And then after meditation, we have to take him that now afterwards you do meditation. Now 3,000 students are waiting for you. So then he came and gave a very inspiring speech to 3,000 youths. And then he went to Mahatma Gandhi's birthplace, Kirti Mandir. Then came to our ashrama, took lunch with us. Then he went to Prasla, another place about 100 kilometers from here. From there, from Porbandar, for giving another youth convention. From there, he drove to Rajkot to take a flight from Rajkot to Bombay on to Chennai. He was at the time teaching in Anna University. It so incidentally happened that I had also to take a flight that day from Rajkot to Bombay on to Benares for their centenary celebration. So I drove to Rajkot. And I was sitting in the aircraft and Dr. Kalam came last. He's a VIP, he came last. Seeing me in the aircraft, Swamiji, you are going by the same flight. I want to sit near you, like a small child. Then I said, okay, I'll come to you. No, Swamiji, you are a monk, I should come to you. What a humility. And then I told the young man who was sitting by, I said, you go to Dr. Kalam's place. He is Bharat Ratna. not president at that time, and let him come. He also wanted to have talk with me. I said, later on I will talk to you. Let Dr. Kalam come. Dr. Kalam came, and Swamiji, in the morning you told so many nice things about Vivekananda. Please tell something more. And then within 40 minutes, it's a very short, flight from Rajkot to Bombay. Within 40 minutes, Bombay came. Swamiji, Bombay has come so quickly. I wanted to learn so many more things about Vivekananda. Anyway, it is one of the greatest days of my life. I have learned so many things about great people. This is a great day for me. This is what Dr. Kalam said. Now, during that time, I asked Swami, why do you want to learn so much about Vivekananda? Why you are so much inspired by Vivekananda? Then he gave a very nice reply. He said, Swamiji, I think Vivekananda is the first saint who converted religion into practical spirituality. Who converted religion into practical spirituality. He talked about worshipping God not in the temple, churches and mosques only, but also worshipping God in human beings. That is what Swamiji wrote to his brother disciples. So far you had heard the words, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. I am giving you some additional mantras. Daridra Devo Bhava, Rogi Devo Bhava. Let the sick people be your gods. And that is the message that inspires. So his message, Swamiji's message, nothing but the message of Vedanta. He himself told, what is my message? This voice, what is telling? What is the voice of Vivekananda telling us? First he said, my ideal indeed can be put into a few brief words. And that is to preach unto mankind their divinity within and how to make it manifest in every moment of their life. While living in the world, while working in the offices, while working in the companies, while working in the kitchen, while doing all these things, remaining as a householder, without taking up the monastic life, without going to forest, without going to mountains, Himalayas, can we practice spirituality? Swamiji said, yes, you can. You can manifest the divinity. And he showed beautiful, he brought the nectar of Vedanta, where he says, ye the children of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings, ye divinities are not sinners, it is a sin to call a man so. It is a standing label on human nature. Come up, O lions, and shake off the delusion that you are sheep. Your soul is immortal, spirits free, blessed and eternal. You are not better, you are not bodies. Matter is a servant, not ye the servant of matter. That is the voice of Vivekananda. Today even calling us, don't be worried, everybody is under tension. Don't be under tension. You are all lions. You have got infinite power within you. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal of human life is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines, dogmas, rituals, worships, temples, churches, mosques are but secondary details. That is the message of Swami Vivekananda. That is the voice of Vivekananda telling us to go for harmony of religions, telling us to go for worship of God in man. Worship, he says, we worship that God who by ignorant is called man. We worship that God who by the ignorant is called man. It is not man, it is divine. See the divinity in others, see the divinity in the poor, in the sick, worship them, a new type of worship for the modern age. And if we want to get peace of mind, if we want to come out of stress, everybody is under stress. Stress management becomes very important. Here is the point. Here is the message of Swamiji, of Vedanta, the nectar of Vedanta. There is divinity within. Try to manifest the divinity within. And very simple methods, 4 yogas. Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga and Gyan Yoga. Combine all the 4 yogas in daily life. Just 1 minute of meditation morning, 1 minute of meditation night. I start with 1 minute. 1 minute manager, that is very popular. So 1 minute manager series, I am telling. 1 minute meditation morning, 1 minute meditation evening. 1 minute, because you don't have time, I know. 1 minute prayer in the morning, 1 minute. Just 5 minutes of inspirational reading in the morning and 5 minutes inspirational reading in the evening. This is what I tell the students also. Donate me 1% of your time. We don't have time. I know. But I want only 1%. 86,400 seconds are deposited in everybody's account. Anybody getting less, please tell me. Everybody gets 24 hours. Today I talked about time management. I said only 1% you give for sharpening the saw that is given by, in the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Only 1% time for sharpening the saw, for coming out of your stress level. Just 1%. 1 minute meditation, morning, 1 minute prayer, 1 minute meditation prayer in the evening, 4 minutes, 5 minutes inspirational reading from Swami Vivekananda or any other, from where you get inspiration, very powerful words, positive thinking, such type of books morning and then evening, 14 minutes and half a minute for self-introspection, 14.5 minutes, 1% of your time, 86,400 seconds makes it only 864 seconds, 14.5 minutes formula I give to the youngsters, which is available for all. Let us start reading the books of Swami Vivekananda. We will get inspired. Sometimes, battery get discharged. Our mental battery get discharged. So we must recharge our battery. So for our mobile battery we can recharge if we put into the socket. But I tell the youngsters, you see, if you do not recharge the battery of your mobile, you will not be able to send SMS to your friends. Isn't it? Okay. So you must recharge your battery. Yes, we are doing it. Then I said, but you are not recharging your mental battery. When you are charging your mobile battery, at that time, mobile is there in the socket. So with the electric current, mobile is getting charged. At that time, you have a book of Swami Vivekananda. Electric shock you will get. And with that electric shock, electrical energy, your mental battery will get charged. By the time mobile battery is charged, your mental battery gets charged every day, positive thinking, and we will come out of it, and we will come and help others. So this is the mess, this is the voice of Swami Vivekananda, coming in the form of books. The best service we can do at the 150th birth anniversary, the best birthday gift. What is the birthday gift we can give? We must give the birthday gift to Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Vivekananda was asked this question by Miss MacLeod. Swamiji, how can I serve you? How can I serve you? She asked an American disciple, Miss MacLeod. She asked Swami Vivekananda, Swamiji, how can I serve you? Now we are also thinking, 150th birth anniversary. Swamiji, how can we serve you? This is 150th birth anniversary. What birthday gift we should give? The reply that Swami Vivekananda gave to Miss MacLeod when Miss MacLeod asked, Swami, I want to serve you. How can I serve you? Swamiji replied, love India. That's all. Love India. And that is the best birthday gift that we can give to Swami Vivekananda. Thank you very much.